After experimenting with more than 50 different AI image generators, in this video I will share with you my top 9 AI image generators that you can try out for absolutely free of cost. So we will test each and every tool in this video to check out the quality it produces and how good it is in following the prompts, and based on that we will rate it. And in this list, there is one specific AI tool with which you can access Flux Pro and Flux Pro Ultra for absolutely free of cost. So make sure to watch the entire video. So that being said, without any further delay, let's get started with our first tool in this list, Adobe Firefly. Okay, we are in Adobe Firefly, and from this particular area we can add text prompt and generate image. So let's add a text prompt over here, like a futuristic space colony on asteroid with glowing skyscrapers, lush green platforms, orbiting ships, and a vibrant nebula in the background. Well, most image generators should generate a decent enough image with this prompt. Alright, so here is our generated image, which looks pretty decent. And it does look like a scene from a sci-fi movie. Alright, so in the left side we have few more customization options for generating our images, like you can change the aspect ratio. So let's select 16:9, and other options like selecting the art style, then giving an image reference from which you can generate an image, and also more effects you can add to your image. Okay, let's test it out with a different prompt. So here is another prompt: a mythical forest at twilight, glowing moss covered trees, bioluminescent flowers, then reindeers, and so on. Let's generate an image with this prompt. Alright, here we see some issues over here because these images were a bit difficult to generate with AI image generator, because there were some creative elements that was required to be generated with the AI tools. So here we have a missing head for this reindeer, and here there are some distortion effect. Similar kind of issues are there in this image as well. Alright, so let's test it with our third prompt, which is even difficult to generate with for an image generator, which is a thrilling FIFA World Cup soccer match with a packed stadium with players in vibrant jerseys battling intensely on the field under dazzling stadium lights, while the roaring crowd waving flags and cheers. Yes, so for this particular image, the AI generator has to properly generate the characters with proper body structure and everything. But unfortunately, we can see some issues over here. The body structures are not that good, and the image is looking weird. This is not at all usable, and you can easily notice that these are AI generated images. And let's test it out with our final prompt, where we will check out how good it is in generating text inside an image, like a beautiful girl holding soft cola can with the logo of the can clearly visible for the soft cola commercial banner, her cheerful expression highlights, and so on. Let's generate. Alright, so the character face was more or less decent, but it has completely ignored the text or the logo that I was expecting to be there in the can. Adobe Firefly has completely failed to generate a logo inside a product. Now, based on the overall result that came out, I can put Adobe Firefly on C tier. The next one in our list is Fodder AI image generator. So let's test it out with our first prompt of space colony. Now here let's change the aspect ratio to 16:9. From here you can increase or decrease the number of multiple images you can generate with a single generation. Of course, if you increase it, it's also going to consume you more credits. So I will keep it 2. And you can even add a negative prompt over here for something that you want to exclude from your generated image. And let's click on generate. Alright, so here is our generated image. I think the images are even better than we got in Adobe Firefly. It is more detailed, and look at the spaceships. It is looking so good. Let's test our second prompt, which is a mythical forest with reindeer. Okay, so here we have our generated images. And look at the detailing on each of the images. It's looking so good. It is actually looking like a scene from a movie. And with this prompt, Adobe Firefly couldn't generate a decent enough image. Okay, let's test out our third prompt of a FIFA World Cup. It is going to be a bit difficult to generate. Let's see what it's generate with this prompt. Well, the quality is pretty good. I wasn't expecting so good quality with this image generator. To be honest, this image generator is not that popular and you hardly get to hear about this image generator in other videos. I mean, look at the crowd, the stadium, overall atmosphere and the players that are interacting with each other. Okay, let's test it out with our final prompt where we are going to judge how good it is in generating logos or text. Okay, now we have our generated images and look at the can. I mean, it has properly generated the text with the logo and it has exactly followed the prompt in both the images. And also the overall structure of the facial structure of the characters on both the images are pretty damn accurate. So based on the results till now, even being so underrated, I don't have any other option but to give it absolute S tier. Now the next one in our list is Kling AI. Well, Kling AI is mostly popular for its video generation, but it has a pretty good text to image generator as well. So let's check out the image generator and let's test it with our first prompt for the futuristic space colony. And also here you can add an image reference and let's change the aspect ratio and number of generations to 2. Alright, so here are our generated images and it is looking pretty good, but the nebula and the overall background part is looking like an watercolor illustration. But it is actually looking good. Okay, now let's test it out with our next prompt of the mythical forest. Alright, so here are our generated images. Now this image is looking good, but for the previous one I think there is something off with the body structure of the reindeer and I think there is some issue with this one as well. So yeah, I think this one somewhat tend to struggle when it needs to generate some human face or an animal. Okay, now let's test it out with our next prompt, which is going to be a pretty tough one to pull off of the FIFA World Cup. Okay, now we got our generated images and there are some issues like the players on the ground doesn't look good and there are some issues with the structure of the hand, but it has designed the crowd pretty well. Let's check out the next one. Well, yeah, in this one also there are some major issues, mainly with the body structure of the characters. Okay, now the final one. Let's see if it can generate text or logos on a product with the soft cola can. Okay, so here we got our generated image. The face of the character is looking good, but there are some AI feel to it. You can see there is some robotic effect on the face or the overall expression, even in this one. Plus, the logo wasn't generated correctly on the can. So Kling AI has kind of failed on this test as well. So based on the results that we have generated till now with Kling AI, I can put Kling AI on B tier. The next one is Akul AI. So let's select the image generator from here and let's start with generating our first image, which is a futuristic space colony. And let's select the aspect ratio 16:9 and let's generate. Alright, so here are our generated images, which is looking pretty nice actually. And if you want to create more variations, then you can click on this and you can even upscale this image further to some higher resolution. Okay, now let's generate our next set of images for a mythical forest at twilight. Okay, so here are our generated images and the quality is pretty good. Even the deer's body structure is pretty accurate. And now let's test it out with our next prompt, which is a thrilling match in FIFA World Cup. Okay, so here are our generated images. Now in this image, it seems like three teams are playing together in a single ground, which is a pretty weird. But again, we cannot be that specific with an AI generated image. But we can actually fix it if we specifically mention that two teams should be playing in a single ground directly in the prompt. So I think this is not a big deal to fix. Okay, now let's check it out with our final prompt to see how good is it really in generating text or logos on our product. Okay, so here are our generated images, which is looking pretty decent, but in some of the images the logo or the text is not correct, and I think the size of the hand is a bit off compared with the facial structure of this character. But in other images, the text is close to correct, but for this soft word, there are some issues over here. And for this, the logo is correct. Again, there is something off with the hand structure. But overall, it's pretty decent if we compare it with Adobe Firefly and Kling. So based on the results till now, I will put it in A tier. The next one in our list is Leonardo.ai. So we are inside Leonardo.ai and let's go to image creation and let's test it out with our very first prompt of a space colony on an asteroid. And I'm selecting the preset Leonardo Phoenix, which is their latest model. Okay, here we got our generated images, which is looking pretty decent actually, but to be honest with you, it is not up to the quality mark so that I can put it in S tier. So let's test out our next prompt, which is a mythical forest at twilight. And here we have our generated images, which is again looking pretty decent. It has also generated the image with some fantasy style and also added some fairies in it. Even the deer's body structure is up to the mark. Now let's test out our next prompt, which is a thrilling match in a FIFA World Cup. Let's see how this image generator generates this image. Okay, so we got our generated images. Now if we look at the overall quality, just the body structure and all, it is looking quite decent, but we wanted a picture of an actual match happening in a stadium, but it has given somewhat a FIFA World Cup poster. I mean, if you look at these images, it is not really looking like a match going on. All the players are together fighting with each other, looking like a banner. So that means it has not properly followed the prompt. Okay, now let's test it out with our final prompt. Like, how good is it in generating logos or generating text inside our image? So for that, we will test it out with our Soft Cola banner. Okay, now we have our generated images, which actually is decent. It has properly generated the text, even the logo, but even though in the can it is only written soft, but in the other images it has properly generated Soft Cola logo inside the can itself. Here also it's looking pretty good, but the hand structure is off in this. Again, for this one it is also looking good, but the F is not looking correct. So based on the results it has produced till now, I can put Leonardo AI in A tier. The next one in our list is Seart.ai. Okay, so we are inside Seart.ai. And in Seart.ai we get a lot of models from which we can try out from. And we even have a lot of fine-tuned models if we want some specific style of character or specific style of design. So let's get started with generating images. And let's start with generating our first image, which is a futuristic space colony on asteroid belt. For the model, I'm selecting Flux, which you can get under the community models, the Flux developer version. And from here, you can add even a fine-tuned model. So in So here in SeaArt, we get a lot of different fine-tuned models based on our requirement. We have an option of sci-fi. Let's select this and let's generate. Okay, now we have our generated images. Now, if you look at the quality, it does look like it's actually a scene from a sci-fi movie. I mean, look at the detailing and of each and every object inside the scene. Okay, now let's test it out with our second prompt of a mythical forest in Twilight. And for that, I would like to change the fine-tuned model but keep it flux. So down here, we have a specific fine-tuned model for fantasy art style. Let's select this and let's click on generate. Okay, so we got our generated images. So it is again looking pretty good. Now let's test our next prompt of a FIFA match in a World Cup. And for this one, let's remove the fine-tuned model. Just keep the base model flux. Alright, so we got our generated images. Now look at the quality. It's looking pretty good. The next one again is also good. It does look like a close view of an actual FIFA match. And finally, let's test out our final prompt to see how good it really is in generating text inside images. Again, I'm not going to select any fine-tuned model. Okay, so here are our generated images. Now here the text is a little off, but in this one, the logo is accurate. And also the facial structure and the hand structure is up to the mark even in this one. So other than that, in SeaArt, you can even train your own model. So based on the customization options that are available here in SeaArt and based on the quality it has generated till now, it is an absolute S tier. The next one in our list is Freepik AI Image Generator. So we are inside Freepik AI Image Generator. So let's start with generating our first image of a space colony. And this image generator is also based on Flux, and it even gives another image model called Mystic, but it is paid. Let's decrease the number of pictures per generation to 2 and the aspect ratio to 16:9 and let's generate. Alright, so here are our generated images, which is looking pretty good. Let's move on with testing our second prompt of a mythical forest in Twilight. Alright, again we got a pretty nice result from here. Now let's test it out for the FIFA match. Alright, so this one is also pretty good. I mean, it is really looking like an image from an actual FIFA match. Now let's test how good it is really in generating logos or text or a product demo. Okay, so here are our generated images. The character design is pretty on point, plus the logo and the text is correct over here. I think there is something off with the hand structure over here. But other than that, all the image generations are pretty good. And also here you get a lot of customization options, but most of it is actually paid. You get some free options here, and also you can select some effects from here and some character styles that you want to pick for your image generation. So based on the results it has generated till now, I would put it in S tier. Okay, so the next one in our list is Microsoft Bing AI Image Generator. So we are inside the image generator of Bing. Let's start with testing it with our first prompt of a futuristic city in space. By the way, this image generator is powered by DALL-E 3 by OpenAI. Okay, so here are our generated images, which is looking pretty decent, but there is something off with the background nebula. It has not properly generated the background, to be honest. I mean, there is something off. So from here you can resize it and change the aspect ratio, and if you want to further customize it, you can open it up in Microsoft Designer. So here you get lots of options to customize this image. Okay, so let's test it out for our next prompt of a mythical forest in Twilight. And here are our generated images. Well, this generated image is actually good. Okay, now let's test it out for our next prompt, a FIFA match. Okay, so here are our generated images, and there is something off with the body structure of the players, and even the crowds, the hands are not looking good. So I think it's safe to say Bing AI has actually failed this test. Now let's test out the final prompt, which is to test it out how good it is really in generating text inside the image or a product demo. Okay, so here are our generated images, and it's good to see that it has properly designed the text with the logo inside the can. But I think there is something off with the facial structure or maybe the overall facial expression. It is quite looking like it is actually AI generated or something. But overall it's pretty decent. So based on the quality it has generated till now, I will put it in A tier. Okay, so the next one in our list is Glyph. So Glyph is a brand new platform where you can test out different LLM models. So if we click on here in build and let's click on add, and here you can add an image generator. So from here you get the access of Stable Diffusion, DALL-E 3, then Controlism version 1, then Flux Pro 1.1, Flux Pro 1.1 Ultra, then Dev model, and in the Chanel. So let's select Flux Pro 1.1 Ultra, which is actually a paid model, but here you get the access for absolutely free. And let's test out our first prompt of a skyscraper on an asteroid. Alright, so here is our generated image, and the generation is pretty good. There is a major drawback here in Glyph, which is, let's test another prompt and let's create. Well, now you can see there is no way we can get the previous result. It has like overwritten that. So that is the drawback. But the quality it has generated even for this image is again pretty good. Even the structure and overall image is really good. But if we just reload the page, the image is gone. Okay, so let's test it out for the FIFA match. And here we have the generated image. To be honest with you, this is by far the best quality image we have generated in this entire video for this prompt. But again, I mean, look at the crowd, the flags waving, here the close-up crowd, then the players in the ground. Again, there are multiple colored jerseys here in the ground, but I think we can fix it using prompt. So finally, let's test it for our final test, which is to see how good it really is on generating text inside the image or logos inside the image. And here we have our generated image. Again, everything is perfect in this image. I mean, you can hardly tell if it is AI generated or an actual footage clicked with a camera. So based on the results it has generated till now, I want to keep it in S tier, but the major drawback is the lack of customization options. So I would put Glyph AI in A tier. Alright, so that was all for this video. So these are my top 9 AI image generators. So that is it. I will see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.